All right, let's start. Central America. Central America.
Now,
Go for it.
the first topic, because again, this is contributor appreciation. This topic was submitted by Trudy, and I'm pretty sure she's in the chat. So thank you, Trudy. But Trudy wants us to talk about the dispute over the United States aid to Central America.
Yes.
So Trump has recently cut aid to Central America. I think in efforts to deter the caravan that's en route from Honduras. So, of course, in March, earlier this year, March 2019, there was a caravan that came from Mexico City. Hundreds of people came. And as a deterrent for the current caravan, Trump has cut aid to Central America. Let's see. Originally, are you pulling up the article?
Yeah, I have it. It's right here.
Okay, so in 2016, the United States, let's go down to the, do you want me to do this one? I thought this one was mine.
It is.
Okay. Go down to the second paragraph. Not that one. Right here. So how much U.S. assistance has gone to 3 countries?
Wait, before we go. Now, why is Trump doing this? Why is he cutting aid?
All right, so people are fleeing mostly Honduras. They're saying Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. But because of lawlessness, violence, poverty, there's a caravan of Central Americans that started out from no, that's last year. Central Americans follow, do you have the thing up? Oh, okay. Okay.
Go for it.
What am I, okay. I'm trying to read it on here and read it. Do you want me to give backstory on what the heck is going on?
Well, okay, that works. Well, so basically, though, there's a caravan of migrants that are coming to the country. And Trump, we have detestable conditions at our borders, and these guys are fighting over how much money to send, like how much money the Congress is going to pass to be used and how it's going to be used.
Correct.
Trump has been threatening to essentially cut funding.
Well, he has.
Okay, he's cut funding.
So in 2016, the United States gave $131 million to Guatemala. By 2019, Guatemala aid was cut to $69.5 million.
Wow.
We were giving $98.3 million to Honduras. That's been cut to $65.5 million. We were in 2016 giving $68 or so million to El Salvador. We're now giving about $46 million to El Salvador. Combined, the cuts amount to a reduction of about 40% for the 3 nations. Funding was previously allocated to a range of areas, including promotion of democracy, human rights and governance, economic development, education, and security. As well as the cuts, the Trump administration asked Congress to shift the balance of aid in 2019 towards security and rule of law efforts. Central American nations are far more dependent on. Are you following me here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's the gist of it.
That's the main part of it.
Right.
Now, the problem with this is just going to end up creating more refugees. Like, keep in mind, the reason that these people are leaving these countries is because mainly these countries are hellholes. And in leaving countries that are difficult places, be it gang violence, be it authoritarianism or whatever, some of them come to our borders and request asylum. Now, the catch here is, from a political angle, Democrats lose on this issue. They do. And the reason I say this, people don't want parents being ripped from their children. They don't want that. That's like, oh God, that's horrible. That's not who we are. We don't like that, etc. They also don't like conditions at our borders being essentially hellholes. Like, they don't want you creating, these horrible conditions on our borders where people don't have soap and utilities just to kind of wash and And at one point, AOC said somebody was requesting something to drink, and
they were drinking out of the toilet.
It's like drink out the toilet. So these are horrible conditions. Now, she calls them concentration camps. In this explicit meaning of the word, yes. In the German meaning of the word, no.
We're not going into that right now.
Right, we're not going into that. I'm just saying. In the German meaning, no, but yes, in the strictest sense of the word. People don't like that. They don't like seeing that. But if you say, should we have open borders? Those people say no. They say no. And they agree that there needs to be strengthening of the borders and those type of things. And when they see a migrant caravan, their response to this, we need to do something about the things that take place at our border. And so when Trump says this, he's not saying it because it's bad politics. He's saying it because it's good politics. That's the only point. The cutting aid is nonsense. Like, that creates the problem, and that makes the problem worse.
Now, just really quick, I do have something else to read on here that was important. But Trudy, thank you for the super chat. She gave a super chat to say, because remember, this is her topic suggestion.
Yeah.
She says he cut aid 2 years in a row, cut it again after the first caravan started. It's a manufactured crisis for political gain, like you just said.
Yeah.
So in 2019, this is 2019, but in March, a caravan came. That's when the first caravan came from Mexico City, and so that's when additional cuts were being made.
And by the way, the article kind of makes a point that because of the politics, Trump made such a big deal out of it that it created a media attention to it, in which case other people started to create their own caravans in order to come to the United States.
In the bottom, let's go down. Keep going almost all the way to the bottom. They're asking why people want to go.
Why they want to join the caravan.
Why they want to join the caravans. But essentially, all of Central America was watching the publicity, giving a lot of publicity to the original caravan in March, which meant if a lot of people are watching, then it's safer for us to travel via these caravans. And so since then, additional caravans. Many of the migrants on that trek, the original one in March, were Hondurans. Central Americans followed it closely in the media, in part due to Trump's repeated criticism of it. That publicity raised the profile of caravans as a potentially safer way to reach Mexico or the United States.
Keep in mind that there's also this thing of, safer. I mean, put it in context, safer. Let's also be clear. The Obama administration wasn't, a lib on this. Like, the Obama administration got rid of, 3 million migrants from the country, 3 million refugees, or people who were essentially deported, 3 million people. In creating and deporting those people, there was also the secondary policy of trying to make things so horrible here that people wouldn't come here. Meaning, in Obama's mind, we need to create a situation that is so horrendous at the border that people wouldn't decide to stay in their own countries, that the countries were a better alternative than coming to America, that our facilities were worse than where they were, which was never going to take place because they were coming from ganglands and war-torn areas. So there's that part. Cutting aid is only going to make this problem worse. Now, in a raw politics state, if you are Donald Trump and you're using immigration as one of your main issues, then you might want to create a situation where the problem gets worse. If the problem gets worse, you could turn around and you can point to the border saying, hey, look at the border. Look how horrendous the border is. We need to do something about the border. This is my one issue. This is the one thing that I want to talk about more than anything else. And you get an actual crisis at the border because of such. It's policy. Like, I don't know if Trump is doing this intentionally. Maybe. I don't even know if Trump makes the connection between the amount of money that you spend in regards to other countries, kind of like a Marshall Plan for Central and South America, and the number of migrants flooding into the United States because their condition is that much worse. I don't know. But if we're thinking of this in raw politics, maybe he does. And if somebody around him thinks about this in raw politics, maybe they do. And maybe their thought is cutting funding increases the number of immigrants. At the very least, it allows us to scream about something wrong with the border and allows us to potentially get elected because of our plan versus what the Democrats want, which sounds like open borders. Keep in mind, whatever the Democrat wants to do for this, if you notice, the questions that they got asked, they have a Hispanic contingency. The questions that were asked in the debate, in some response, even went to, would you decriminalize coming into the country illegally? And the Democrats were sheepish on this because they know the moment that they answer the question, yes, they're going to be hit when they run in the general election on they want open borders. Raw politics is raw politics. But look, the Hispanic contingency is like, we have our own political wants. This is not a united, states in the sense of united where all of us want the exact same thing. We have political things that we want if you want our vote, meaning talking to the Democrats.
Yeah.
And whether you want to decriminalize or not, I am not for open borders. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. There are some lefties who completely disagree with me on this front. That when we get to the point where we have this kind of technocratic society and all societies are relatively equal and all this other stuff, then fair enough. But we're not there. And that said, I have enough sense to realize when I'm looking at the polling that the American public does not want open borders either. And that they are more on the side of strengthen borders.
Yeah.
Don't rip people from their mamas. Don't, do this nonsense where you're not funding the areas where you're putting people in. Listen to asylum. You should invest more money into courts and everything else in regards to asylum seekers. And I think the American public would agree that how Trump has done this has been horrible.
Yeah.
But when you look at the polling, they still agree on border security. Yeah. Like the Republicans don't hit that for no reason. They hit it because it's a safe area for them to hit. But yeah, those cuts are politically driven and they're going to make matters worse.
Yeah, they are. And that's even mentioned in the article, which if it's not, it'll
that they were politically driven?
In the, yeah. Critics of Trump's ongoing cuts to Central American assistance fear that less U.S.
I'm sorry. My bad.
I was literally reading off the screen.
My bad.
Fear that less U.S. engagement in the region risks aggravating the problems that encourage migration in the first place. The violence, the lawlessness, the poverty. Last month, Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez told Reuters that cuts in U.S. Reuters?
Yeah, but it's okay. Keep going. Okay. My bad.
Told Reuters.
Everybody knew what you meant. My bad. I shouldn't have said anything.
That cuts in U.S. aid would make it harder to stem illegal immigration.
Yes. Because the money that they were given accounted to like 1% of those countries' budgets.
Yeah. But it was given to, and again, this is El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. The aid was given in condition that these countries would show progress on issues like human smuggling, drug trafficking, and dissuading citizens from migrating illegally to the United States. So if you are cutting aid to these countries, their government is saying that now it's going to be harder for us to stem illegal immigration. It's like,
And it follows logically, though. I mean, you can, I don't know the scale. I would imagine you probably can plot it on the graph, how horrible a country gets and the amount of immigration from that country.
Yeah.
I don't know the scale of horribleness. I don't know if there's such an index. But if there was, and you could plot it, I would wager that the more horrible it gets, the more people leave.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's fascinating. Thank you, Trudy. Thank you. And yeah, the politics of it, man, it makes sense. I mean, in a raw politics way, like where you don't care about human beings, where you pretend as human beings are just a factor for political gain or loss. And you can say, if we make their lives more miserable, more people flee, more people will come to the border. And if they do so, we can now use this as a political issue for immigration. That sucks. Yeah. Do I put it past somebody in politics to do it? No, I don't. But it still sucks.